However, what you'll have noticed about that film is that it was in French with English subtitles. Some people won't tolerate subtitles on the grounds that all that reading gives them brain ache. On the other hand, the alternative, dubbing, is worse because dubbing nearly always seems to be done by expatriate Americans with flat Midwestern voices and no discernible acting ability of any kind. But have you ever wondered how subtitles get there in the first place? Probably not. Life has greater mysteries to ponder. Nevertheless, here is our report on the making of the subtitle.
The real problem with understanding films internationally first came up, of course, when the talkies came into being. With silent cinema, as Lillian Gish has said, it was an international language. And you had the titles, of course, between shots, but they were easy to translate and they didn't make any significant difference from country to country.
Subtitling for the cinema is a long, expensive process carried out by specialist laboratories, mostly in France. Film Text is the only such establishment in Britain. Whether you're preparing The Abyss for the Swedes or Batman for the Poles, the techniques and problems are the same.
We're working on this film called Tank Malling, which is going to end up subtitled in South America. We're spotting it. That is to establish where the subtitles are going to go. And it's all done by numbers.
The subtitler faces all manner of difficulties, brevity and legibility to name but two.
Other problems arise when you've got to translate films which have got either songs. Well, you know, if there's a song going on, where are you going to put the titles for this? It's just too many titles, and people are talking over the song at the same time. Or slang, where for whatever it means, it's very hard to find an equivalent in English.
Oh putain, les j'en tiens une bonne. Je suis crevé. Je vais mettre la viande dans le torchon. On débarrassera demain.
After the spotting process comes typesetting. The translated dialogue needs to be timed and positioned accurately.
What we have here is the list that we typed from. It includes the footages which Barry has provided us with, and also a translation of the text in the film. And it appears in the form of a column, like that.
This typeset column is now the basis for making the new titles. The next stage is to produce a negative version, which can then be filmed under a rostrum camera.
I'm just lining up the first subtitle, open the shutter and film. And so on right the way through the film. And this is what we end up with. Little black subtitles on a clear background.
These minute titles must now be printed in contact with the film's negative to produce white titles on a positive background. Another, more primitive method is for titles to be physically stamped onto the film using copper printing blocks. Each tiny block has to be hand-filed and examined for faults, because any mistakes will show up 6 feet across on the screen.
This machine is a subtitling machine which engraves titles directly on the positive print by means of little copper printing blocks and applied by heat and pressure. There's quite a lot of pressure involved. It's about 300 pounds per frame. The heat is about 300 Fahrenheit. Each frame is embossed. With other words, the emulsion is burnt out on each frame. The film is synchronized up with the machine by a footage counter and control sheets here. Everything is measured in feet and frames. So I put the titles in at this number already written down and bring it out at the out measurement. And the finishing product goes into the drying cabinet and it's ready for the cinema.
Exchanges between 2 or 3 people are simple enough for the eye to cope with, but anything much more complex than that can raise problems for the viewer.
Alors les mains en l'air.
Take something like Godard, where you frequently use text as well as different kinds of images going on at the same time and voiceover. Well, this becomes a complete challenge for both subtitler and audience alike.
The only alternative to subtitling is dubbing. Both options have their supporters and detractors, though dubbing tends to be the less satisfactory alternative.
Dub films are where the voices are effectively eliminated and replaced. Sorry, the real voices are effectively eliminated and replaced by those of actors.
Robin, you read me?
Loud and clear.
Dispatch the best men you've got to the Vincennes line connection right away. I've got the roller trapped.
I can send you Tom and Jerry, is that enough?
No, I need more than 2.
There are 2 very crucial factors about dubbing that make it inferior to subtitling. The first, of course, is that it's very hard to actually get the lip sync right, to get the words that you're hearing in time with the words that you're seeing.
Robin, tu m'entends?
5 sur 5.
Bon, il me faut des types direction Vincennes. Sortie, couloir correspondance. Je file le roller en ce moment.
Bon, pour le moment, je peux t'envoyer Antoine et Gérard, ça va?
Trouve-moi-en d'autres.
But another thing is that a performer, an actor, brings a lot to a film, and part of that is his voice and his intonation. And it's ridiculous to imagine a famous actor without their voice. I mean, Jimmy Stewart with his drawl is a good example.
The art of subtitling a film is not to give the viewer too much work to do. Keep it simple, yet not simplistic.
For an audience, it's often very difficult because of the need to read. The need to read creates a sort of an effective barrier between the audience and the film. And so the viewer often will have sort of a distance effect, which will lead to an inability to quite get to grips with the narrative in a normal way.
Subtitles, if done well, should present no problem, but they're often done badly. Sometimes you get the words against a white background, sometimes you get too many words on the screen, they're timed wrongly compared with what's being said, the sentences are broken at bad points, and so there's various technical problems like that. But there's also the problem of translation. It applies particularly, I think, to slang and comedy. There's a comedy out at the moment, Life is a Long Quiet River, which was an enormous success in France. It's doing okay in London, but the distributors tell me that some of the jokes are not getting the laughs that they should do over here, simply because it's difficult to translate.
Et voilà la technique des sous-titres dans les mots de M. Roy Bremner, et pourquoi pas. And that's quite enough of that.